welcome to Real Talk today. I have with me Chelle Protzman, Pastor Chelle Protzman. She is the wife of our associate pastor, Jason Protzman, and Chelle does a lot of stuff around here. You do a lot of counseling, receptionists, take care of the front of the house, so to speak, and lots of other things in planning. Sidekick with Sequence. You and Jason run that, our young adults ministry. But separate from that, you volunteer and are a part of a group, I believe it's out of Fresno, that really addresses human trafficking and some of that. And so today, our Real Talk subject is just going to be about human trafficking. You know, it's something, Chelle, that I'd heard of and heard about, and I think I'm kind of in the norm on this. You hear things on the news every now and then, but it's not highly publicized. And you hear a lot of stuff about, you know, maybe at the border or whatever going on. But this is huge all across America. And about a year ago, we had a lady named Angela Valdez who came with Churches on the Streets, and her and her husband Ralph, and they began to talk about the trafficking trade and all the issues going on. And then, you know, we had began to talk a little bit about it, and I was just shocked to see how prevalent this is right here in our area and what's going on. So when we talk about human trafficking, what are we referring to?
Okay, so human trafficking refers to a wide range of things. It can be anywhere from labor trafficking, you know, not making a wage, or somebody coming over here with a promise of work, but now you have to pay me back because their living conditions maybe were deplorable. And so they're coming here with a promise, but you have to pay off your debt kind of thing. And they live in despicable conditions usually, all the way to child trafficking, which can be for sexual, but it can also just be for, hey, I need you to go out and make money, sell these candy bars for me, things like that. And then it's all the way up to sex trafficking, which of course we have this age-old vision of the 80s and the 90s with prostitutes walking on the streets and it's all their fault. And, you know, it's the oldest occupation is what we've been told. But in the reality is a lot of these women, children, boys, girls are all taken against their will, or they're produced as addicts so that they will produce this for the traffickers. And all of it comes down to this makes more money than drugs, alcohol, or well, not alcohol, but drugs and gun running, because you can use a person over and over again, whereas if you sell a drug, it's done and over with. Sure.
Yeah. So how prevalent is this in the country? Are there hot spots? Is it certain states? Is it border states that it's predominant in? Or I mean, I would think that, you know, even your bigger cities, you'd see a lot more of it. But I know we've heard of it right here in our hometown in Dinuba and throughout the Central Valley. So tell me how prevalent this is and what categories. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the stereotype, or what we think, is that it only happens in LA or New York City or big cities. But the reality is it's in probably every city in America, small towns to big towns, because what traffickers do is when they traffic somebody, they usually move them to a different area, or they rotate, like they take them across the country, and it'll be a hot spot for, like, they might be traveling from city to city or to city with these people, and because they don't want to get caught, and because they've worn out their lucrativeness in one area, and so they move them across the country. So the reality is, no matter where you live in America, there's probably some kind of trafficking that exists in your town, city, or region.
So tell me a little bit about the organization you work with in Fresno, I guess it is. What's the name of it? Is this a piece of a nationwide thing, or is this just its own entity? What are some of the organizations that are working with trafficking?
Okay, so I do work in the Fresno County, and I know Tulare County is kind of catching up, but within Fresno County, there's 26 organizations, and they all have different.
Really?
They all have different roles that they play in this. Some are strictly for educating people, come into hospitals, schools, churches, and educate people. They educate parents. They educate people so that they can help be a resource. And then there's homes where the girls or boys, when they get off the streets, have some place where they can go. It's almost like, we take people who are drug and alcohol addicts and we put them in a rehabilitation program. Well, these people need rehabilitation too. And so oftentimes they can't go home or whatever. And so they have places in Fresno for that as well. And actually one big organization has started one in Parlier, so closer to us. And then there's other places that are police. There's a whole police department that works with everybody as well, who really try to work with all the organizations. They all work so well with each other. Some of them are religious and some of them are non-religious. The ones that I work with, it's called World Impact. And really World Impact is a missionary organization, but living in this neighborhood where she saw all this happening right outside of her door, she said, I need to do something about this. So she started with just a few of us women who had a heart for it as well. We took some classes, and it's twofold. Number one, there's what we call the triage team. So we're kind of the first responders. We may get a call from an organization or the police department saying, we have this girl, we need a place for her to stay. She's detoxing or she's coming out of the hospital, and we need a place for her to stay until we know where this woman's going to go. And so we take that women in and we spend time with them 24/7. We and just
Now, when you say you take them in, you've taken them into your home, how does that work?
Not my home. We have an apartment set up.
Okay.
On a property, and they go into that apartment. They have to hand us everything they own, just so that we make sure they don't have any drugs or anything like that. We clean all their clothes. We get them fresh clothes. Everything that they need, a blanket, all of that stuff. And they stay in our apartment. We feed them. We take care of them until we've had people stay a couple days, and they're free to leave at any time. But we really strongly encourage them, obviously, not to.
Sure.
It takes a woman 7 to 8 times to actually get out of the lifestyle. 7 to 8 times of coming out.
And we're talking the sex trade now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, this is specifically with sex trafficking. But we give them everything they need until we figure out where they need to go. There's a lot of pieces that are in play. We do art therapy with them. We do all kinds of therapy, and a lot of them, because of the trauma they've experienced, are not in a very healthy place.
So somebody goes, you get them in off the streets, they want out. You put them in this apartment. Is it like 24/7 supervision, or is it like, okay, we'll check on you tomorrow at noon, or how's that work?
It's 24-hour supervision of volunteers.
Okay.
So it's, hey, we have this shift. Can somebody take a 4-hour shift? Can somebody take an 8-hour shift? And we just sign up for shifts, and they may need rides to places. They need a birth certificate or something like that. So we take them for rides to places that they need to go, if they need to get out of the house. Sometimes it's been where we can't even let them leave the apartment because they're not safe walking out the front door.
So the apartment you have, is it like just one bed, one person, or can you handle 3-4 women at a time, or how's that work?
We actually have 4 beds.
Okay.
So we can take up to 4 women, but we've maxed out at 2 because women don't play well with each other in this industry and what they've been through and the trauma. So 2 women is about all we can handle at a time.
Separate rooms, and
Sure.
Wow, I can see that. So how does that open up? I mean, should I be concerned of my 9-year-old granddaughter? Or is this more teen runaways and they find them out on the streets, or what is predominant?
It's often kids in the foster system. What they do is they have people who actually go out looking for potential girls and boys that they can traffic. And so the idea behind this is let's look for the people who are marginalized out there, or the girls sitting around the table, the one girl that looks like she's got a low self-image or she's not very kept. They're so well trained that they can pinpoint these things. Or let's just walk around and see if we can see somebody wandering the streets all by themselves that look like they fit a profile.
We had a couple of our girls from the church here that were approached in front of one of the big box stores in the area. So, I mean, what's that look like? They just walk up to random teenage girls and
yeah, especially college
pick them up, or
yeah, especially high school and college student age girls. The line that they'll often use is, "Are you from here? Do you go to college here, or are you from around here?" Because if they're from here, a lot of times they'll just walk away. But if you're not from there, then they go, "Wow, they don't have connection here." So this might be an easy target for me. And so that's usually the lines, that kind of thing.
Okay. So your organization, you're on the front lines, getting the girls off the streets and working with them. What are there other things that you guys do? Or is that the primary focus?
We actually have 3 teams. That's one team. And then we have specifically just a prayer team.
Okay.
We just get prayer requests and we pray. And you can be on one team or all 3 of the teams. It depends on what you feel like God's placed on your heart to do. And the third thing is we do outreach team, and we do that once a month. And what we do is there's an area in Fresno primarily where the girls actually walk the streets up and down, and they are picked up by Johns. And so we actually go out and we just walk around the streets. We have food usually for them, like a treat or something for them to drink, and we just see if we can get 30 seconds with them to, hey, sometimes we have long conversations, and sometimes they completely ignore us and walk away because they're working or their pimp is nearby or something. And
life doesn't have to be this way.
Right. So we just love on them. Hey, if you ever want a way out, we're here for you. And talk, like there's girls that we've had conversations over, and they know us when we show up.
Wow.
Here come the people, and that builds trust with us as well.
Okay. So what's the kind of success ratio? You said something about, I don't know, the average one is 8 or 9 times
that they
trying to get out before they actually do.
Yes.
Why is that? Why is this hold so strong? You would think that somebody that's being forced to sell their bodies and give the money to somebody else through prostitution or whatever it is, right, that would want out of that, and going back would mean some pretty harsh treatment, one would think. So why does it take so long in the process to get them out? Is it just that this is so built in, it's all they know? I mean, have they been brainwashed? What's going on?
There's several ways that they do it. One is they may get them addicted to drugs, and so that's their source.
Okay.
They also do what's called the Romeo complex, and so they may think that that's their boyfriend or their husband. They may be so brainwashed into thinking that this person loves me and I'm just doing this to help them out. Or 3, they're just so afraid, they're so traumatized because a lot of times they're literally treated like animals and tormented to the point where they don't know anything else. There's something that's switched in their brain that they don't know anything differently, or they were at such a young age that that's what they've known, or trauma from their parents, things like that. Maybe they just don't know anything else but abuse.
So how's the hierarchy of this work? I mean, is it a thing where it's just some guy that's decided that he's going to start his own whatever? Or is this like from drug cartel that are, very, very well organized, and okay, you've got Fresno or you've got Madera or whatever, and kind of heading up that area? I mean, how organized is this?
It's everything from that. Like it's because honestly, that like I said before, this is a big moneymaker. So gangs are now leaning more towards trafficking than they are from drugs and guns because they can make a lot more money, millions and millions of dollars they can make from people, all the way to being honest, moms and dads who do this with their own children or stepdad.
Yeah.
Or it might be just like a small little organization. And it's not just men, it's women who are doing this as well.
Could it be in the, you said something about oh shoot, my mind's blank. The kids that are in the system. Okay. Are these the parents of, the ones that are not adopting? What am I looking for? Fostering. Thank you. Foster parents, are they kind of, are there sometimes that they're at the core of this, or is it just?
Yeah, sometimes it's foster parents, sometimes it's step parents. Oftentimes a stepdad will come into the situation and do this with the stepdaughters or stepsons. Oftentimes it's foster kids age out at 18. If they haven't been taught skills or they don't really have a future, then they're an easy target. I know not in America, but in some countries, you're given a bus ticket when you age out of the foster system and $30 and sent on your way. And people, you literally stand by the bus stations to pick up these girls.
I'm literally sitting here getting nauseous.
Yeah.
When I think about this, and how that adult human beings can buy and sell and traffic another human being, an innocent girl, who probably has been traumatized, probably gone through some trauma in her life, looking for a way out or something, and just taking such advantage of them to bring them into that industry. And I call it an industry. I mean, it's that's just gross. That's sick. But it's mind-boggling that this is going on all over America. And you're even saying even rural America. I know here, our city's only 25,000 people, and yet we know of locations in our city, even places where there's a lot going on in neighborhoods or other commercial locations that we know of. So how do you deal with that? If somebody suspects something going on, what would cause somebody to be aware that this is going on in their neighborhood or in an area? Because in our minds we think, I do anyway, that's the red light district.
Sure.
Okay, where, like you said, the girls are walking the streets and everything, but this isn't just that. This is going on in neighborhoods that are middle-class neighborhoods, right?
This is going on in upper-class neighborhoods as well. We just had a girl come through our system, and obviously I can't talk about any of the details.
Sure.
But she was owned by a doctor in Clovis, and he would have people come to the house. So it's not just, we think lower class, we think, ghetto type of neighborhoods, to use a slang term.
Sure.
But it's everywhere. So some things to be aware of would be really good is pay attention to your neighbors. Do you see people coming in, especially men, coming at all hours of the day? Are doors and windows like seemingly locked all the time? Does this person have freedom to come in and out of the house? Do they even go to school or not go to school? Or if they do, like, they go right home. Is their hygiene different from the rest of their family? Is the hygiene of the person, like if you see this person and they're like, go to the store, is their hygiene different from everybody else in the family? Do they seem like they have control over are you allowed to talk to them or not talk to them? Things like that are triggers that you might look out for. There's people that have said, if only people knew what was going on next door in my middle class neighborhood, somebody could have saved me.
Man, that when I think about that, and I think about the fact that this could be going on in any neighborhood, and I've never witnessed it, I've never seen it, but then again, it's like I've never been this aware before either, and so, I just wonder how prevalent. Do you have stats? Do you have numbers of how much this trade is going on? Particularly, and I know there's different divisions of it or aspects of it, the labor, whatever, but particularly, I think the thing that catches my eye and my mind and my concern so much, maybe it's being a dad, a grandfather, is just these young girls.
Yeah.
And being pulled into the sex trade and traffic. I don't even want to call it a trade because that almost seems to legitimize it,
Sure.
But what are some of the stats? Do you know?
It used to be, it's interesting because we haven't gotten better. Like, I remember when I first heard about this back in 2000 and I want to say like 2011 or 2012, somewhere in there, there was a big thing about there's 27 million people in the world caught up in trafficking and human trafficking of some kind. And so that was big. February 27th was a big day. We would do a national prayer day for that and everything. But that number hasn't gone down. It's gone up.
Yeah.
We're at like 32 million now or something like this. So
but that's worldwide?
It's worldwide. So I can't tell you like...
See, that seems very low.
Yeah.
Number. I mean, when you consider the billions and billions of people on this planet and third world countries where, the law is not enforced as
Sure.
well, and then places in America, where do they find these numbers?
Well, it's the trackable numbers.
Okay.
Because obviously, some of it's just guessing. It's very difficult to track somebody who is not in the system, maybe even. So, like, if a girl gets arrested or somebody gets arrested, that's a trackable number.
Okay, gotcha.
Or a girl or a child goes missing and they suspect it, that's a trackable number. But then there's other things that are just, what if a kid is just in a system is just a number and lost, like there's, I'm sure, or places, third world countries, things like that, where it's just not even trackable. It's just so prevalent.
Yeah. So part of the reason that I wanted to do this podcast and drill down on it is awareness. But number two, what can be done about it? I mean, okay, so I'm aware this is going on, or the average person out there is aware of it. What can they do to change it other than the obvious volunteering for an organization like the one that you're involved with, which, as you said, there are many, many of these. I mean, I couldn't believe how many you said were right there in Fresno alone. And had no idea it was that big. But if it's that much just in Fresno, what is it in L.A. and New York and St. Louis and Orlando and wherever, But the average person, okay, so they're aware. Now what?
Yeah.
What can they do?
Good question. So I think that if we're aware of it, and we need to keep our eyes open, see if you see something that doesn't look in the ordinary. But in order to do that, we have to educate ourselves.
Right.
So my recommendation, there's books and movies out there. There's a great movie, Nefarious. There's another one, I think it's called Break the Chains. There's so many things out there. Watch those things because those are real movies with real people. And that is how I got started learning about it, was watching things with real people and educating myself. There's an organization in Fresno called Central Valley Justice Coalition. They have a website, I think it's justiceco.org. And you can actually go on there, and they have classes that will teach you human trafficking. They have technology in your teenager. So if you have a teenager or a potential teenager in your home, you can learn about what technology looks like and how to monitor that with your teenager. They have classes for churches and all kinds of organizations. They do such a great job at educating our community on what this looks like. And so education, be educated, have your eyes open. Don't be like, oh, well, that person is just, there's sometimes I've walked up to somebody and just said, hey, are you safe?
Right.
Because I know the signs, because I've educated myself so much so that I can pull up in a hotel and tell you if it's going on in a hotel or not.
Sure.
I can walk into a parking lot and go, that doesn't look right, because I've educated myself.
Right.
And that's the key, is education of movies, organizations, things like that. There's so many partnering things that we can do to educate ourselves in that.
So if you feel like this is going on in your neighborhood, what would the average citizen do about it? Call the police?
You can call your local police, but the best thing to do is, I'm going to tell you the phone numbers. I have it on here. So there's a national human trafficking hotline that's 24/7, and it's 888-373-7888, or you can text 233-733, which is the words "be free."
Okay.
And you can just text them, hey, I see this going on. This is where I'm at. And they'll communicate immediately back and forth. So if you're not in a safe place, this is great for somebody even who's in trafficking. You know, you can say, hey, do you know this number? Or just text "be free."
Okay.
If you ever want out, text "be free."
Okay.
And
it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And then that organization will be in touch with that person.
Exactly.
Wow, that's cool.
We also have Tulare County has a human trafficking division, and that number is 559-725-4194. And then Fresno has one. It's 559-527-5869. And both of those are direct human trafficking divisions. But if you don't want to remember all that, I have the national hotline programmed into my phone. So at any time I can call them if I need to.
Awesome. Before we end today, I want to you mentioned something I want to drill down on. I want us to unpack just for a minute and talk about. You were talking about how that somebody can go on this website and educate themselves in various things. The thing that stuck out to me the most is your child and the internet or social media, that kind of thing. You know a lot about what to look for and what to be concerned with. And I think the thing that bothers me the most is the fact that I think parents, from the time a child is small, the child is saying, can I use your phone to play this game? Can I use your iPad? I know my grandkids love all that, and that's not a knock at their parenting. Mm-hmm. I mean, I got wonderful children, wonderful parents of their kids. But it does concern me that as we are allowing our kids at 3 and 4 and 5 years old to get more electronically connected, then as they get older, it seems like when they need the most supervision is when they're so accustomed to it and the trust is there that I think innocent parents are just going, you know, oh yeah, of course they're only playing their video game on my iPad or my phone or whatever, or now they have a phone of their own, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, what teenager these days doesn't have their own iPhone pretty much?
Sure.
So who they're connecting with on social media and everything, as well as different sites they're visiting or talking to. I mean, am I wrong in thinking that some of these people are luring and grooming them and luring them in to a bad situation?
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally true, and it happens all the time. And actually, I just read a statistic recently, or a couple articles, that the number one right now is Instagram.
Really?
And you would never, like, I always thought of Instagram as, oh, I posted a picture of this or a picture of that. But it is absolutely becoming like the number one place where for A, pornography, and B, for stalking people. Far beyond Snapchat. And obviously there's other things that are specifically geared toward, you're not going on those sites unless you're looking for certain things. But Instagram has become like the number one social media platform.
So how does a parent know? I mean, are there records on the phone or on the iPad that, you know, is there a footprint? Is there a way that parents can track this? And
yeah, so that's the scary thing, is that almost every platform we have now has an incognito or a private tab where your history is not recorded.
No.
Almost Instagram, Safari, Google, you name it, YouTube, you name it, there's a private tab on those. But the good part is that there are a lot of companies that have amazing apps and programs that you as a parent can put on your devices for your children, so that in some I believe some cellular like AT&T and stuff like that have some programs as well, that you can put on your phone and their phones, and you can track everything that they do, even on the private stuff.
But our kids are so smart.
They are smart,
So
but
how do they, I mean, are they bypassing that? Are they finding out your password or what and unlocking that?
yeah,
I mean,
it's possible. I mean, there's always a way around everything, but it takes a pretty tech savvy person to be able to do that. And I know for us growing up, like I had a code for the TV, and I had even DirecTV. If it went beyond a certain rating or had certain things, the kids had to come find me and get a password to even unlock our television.
Okay.
And there's things that you can do, like our computer was always in a central location. No TVs in your room. The phone went on a charger in the living room before they went to bed.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed to have iPhones, and they had to have a dumb phone first.
Yeah.
I mean, which sounds really silly now. I mean, my kids are not that much older than some of these kids, but still, like there's ways that you can protect your children. There's boundaries, but the thing is, tell your children why you were setting those boundaries, not to be like, I'm going to be this overbearing parent, but listen, I'm protecting you, and this is why, and this is reality. And watch some of that stuff with your kid. Like, if your kids are teenagers, they need to know, I think, the reality of what's out there and what could really actually happen to them. Because I know my daughter has been approached several times by people who could have taken her, but I trained her. Like, I'm protecting you. And same with my sons, I'm protecting you. And this is why I'm protecting you. And, my son saw it in the military. All his friends would go out and buy girls all the time. And he was like, no, I don't do that. They're slaves.
Right.
Right. Because we were educated.
Sure.
So educate your children on the reasons why you're doing the things you're doing to protect them.
Right.
And I also think a big thing is we need to instill identity in our children.
Right.
And our teenagers. So I know that my daughter has a very high self-esteem. There's no doubt that she has not announced, anybody who knows my daughter knows that she does not have a low self-esteem. But that's because we instilled identity into them. And my husband told her she's beautiful. I told my sons they are handsome. You're amazing. You're this. And poured into them. And when you pour into your kids,
they're not looking for those compliments out there, and those words don't mean anything.
Exactly. So if we're doing our job as parents on both levels, if the God level and the practical level, then I believe that we are creating a solid foundation to protect our kids.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. I just, the whole social media thing is frankly pretty scary to me. And the number of kids that are unsupervised, even the amount of screen time. Now I get it. Parents do come in sometimes and say, okay, you got an hour of screen time tonight or whatever, but not until the homework's done, this and that. That's good parenting. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm even talking about, number one, those that aren't doing that. They're not monitoring that stuff. Your kids don't even have to be pulled into something like that to be into stuff they shouldn't be. I mean, young boys on pornography and girls too, I guess, for that matter, but just accidentally coming across somebody who is wanting to do them harm or get them alone. I mean, predators that are there, and just the protection of our kids. I can't stress enough that parents, I think that's wise. They've got to educate themselves, and then they have to, I think it would behoove them to have some really candid conversations with their teenager and their children and say, this is why we're going to watch this. This is why we're not watching that. This is why you're not allowed. Other than, typically, I mean, the way I grew up, why mom? Why dad? Because I said so. And that's the end of it. And I get it that we're in a different generation, and there's a part of me that's like, why am I explaining myself to this 4-year-old? Right? But on the flip side, I think it's healthy to stir the conversation with our kids so that they understand this isn't us trying to keep them handcuffed and they can't enjoy something, and keeping fun from them. This is a protection, no different than I would protect them from running out in front of a bus,
Yeah.
and I saw an oncoming car. I really would not care too much about, a bruise mark when I grab them. I just want to protect them and want to keep them safe,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so when I'm looking at this, I'm not too worried about, am I wrong in this? That I wouldn't be too worried about bruising their ego and their freedoms, right? I'm more concerned with what that can lead to. And I'm not saying to be harsh or insensitive and not have a communication, but at the end of the day, somebody's got to step up and be the parent and guide that. And so what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's why I think that there's a balance. Like if you have if you've poured into your kids who they are, then and then you bring in this is why I'm doing this, why I'm, like I always believed in parenting where we don't just because I said so.
Yeah.
And because that's what our parents' generation did to us. And look where we ended up,
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Here we are having this conversation.
Yeah, right.
So instead of because I said so, it was, this is why I'm protecting you, because I don't want you to get taken. And this is, and you can level it to your child's age. But by the time they're teenagers, you should be being very realistic.
Yeah.
By the time they're hit middle school, man, you have to be realistic. Not only that, but protecting them from what if they get approached from one of their friends' parents or a relative.
Right.
So you're protecting, this is, God gave us our children and we put them in households, not only so we'll serve the Lord, but this is our responsibility. These are the ones that God gave us to protect.
What do you say to the parent that is, let's say, a single mom with, I don't know, a couple of teenage boys, or even a daughter who is coming in saying, I'm specifically looking more at a single parent because there's so many single parents that are doing it alone right now, and it's a big job, but their kid is saying to them, oh my gosh, what is the problem here? Why are you being like this? I have no freedom. I have no privacy, and doing the whole, guilt trip. Okay. I can't believe you don't trust me, blah, blah, blah. What do you say to that parent?
I would say that, first of all, grace, there's always grace on those single parents, I believe, but also that they have to explain that I'm doing this for your benefit. And this is why I'm doing it for your benefit. And I'm sorry if it seems like I'm taking away your freedom, but not that you'll thank me later type of thing, but actually demonstrating to them, maybe showing them a news article, take them on you can find stuff about Dinuba on our website. See,
Sure.
This is where, they
You think
rescued
this isn't happening here?
Exactly.
Right.
This is where, or, things where somebody got locked up for something. Something that's really relevant to them, take it to their level and actually show them, because the kids will be, oh, that will never happen to me.
Right.
But you don't know that.
Right.
And so I'm teaching you this so that this doesn't happen to you, because my job is to protect you. When you're on your own, I want to know that I've given you the skills, just like you have to go to school to learn math and all those things so that you can be a productive member of society. This is also protection. It just looks differently.
And I think the thing to reiterate to your teen or preteen, whatever it is, whichever it is, I should say, is this isn't about that I'm accusing you that you're doing something wrong. This is about I have lived longer and I know what's out there. And what I'm more concerned about what somebody else may do that's wrong and cause you to be victimized in it. And so this is a protection for you, not something that I'm withholding from you.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't trust you.
Right.
In this. I know you're smart. I know that you get it.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that you're safe.
Yeah.
That's my job. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And, you can get upset all day long if you want to, but that's what I do. And I could never live with myself if went under my watch, and I had neglected that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think kids get it. I think they're smart enough to understand that. Now, they may have their own rebellion and their own issues and their own issues with their parent or whatever that's going on. And, I think family counseling is amazing. To take them into a local church and pastor to speak into them a little bit, or professional counseling for family, to open communication and understand this. So you have kind of if you're having a hard time communicating with your kids, get a neutral party that can help you and buffer that, because you got to learn those communication skills and have that, because you don't start at 15 or 17. You've already messed up. You've got to get this when they're 5 and 6 and 7, and you're working with them through those young preteen years, childhood years, so that you have this developed, and then you can begin to see with the kids as they get a little older if rebellion is kicking in, if this this mindset, this isolation thing. And look, I raised 3 boys. I get it. They go to the room and they hang out, and that's their place, their space. But we didn't even let our kids have locks on the doors.
Yeah.
Because I just know it's my house.
Yeah.
And we are going to know what's going on in your room. And by the way, your room is not so private that I can't take a look while you're gone at school. So just know I'm doing that. Just know, and it's, again, it's a protectionism. And while that sounds like I don't trust you, I'm seeing signs. I'm seeing things that are concerning me about who you're hanging with, and your grades and different things that are going on. They're tell signs for me. Yeah. And I'm just concerned. So anyway.
I think communication is so key, and relationship with your kids not to the point where you're friends. I don't think that's right, but to the point where if something does happen to them, that you're a safe place for them too, that they can trust you and you won't freak out.
Right.
That you won't, but that's all, like you said, it's those beginning years of, by the time your kid's 12, 13 years old, you should be just there, steering the ship, because you've done all the communication, you've done all the training, discipleship, discipline, all those things.
That's so good. My thing is there's in our conversation, I know we got to end it for today, but there's so many places we could dive into that has nothing to do with the traffic.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's parenting. It's just communication with your kids. I remember when I was a youth pastor, I was youth pastor for about 13 years before I came here to LWF as a senior pastor. But when I got here, my kids were young, and 4th, 6th grade, and then Adam was still in diapers when we got here. So he loves hearing that. But when my kids became teenagers, I thought, man, I've been a great youth pastor, and I've helped all these other teenagers. This is going to be easy, right? It was not. It's different. I don't care if you've been working with kids. Once they are your own, number one, it's different, and number two, you learn quickly that you don't know everything, and that you haven't got this whole thing figured out. And then when I got Joshua down the path in his teen years, then I had Kyle coming, and now I'm dealing with a whole different personality. And then by the time Adam comes up, the world has changed so much in 5, 6, 7 years that now here I am, and I'm redoing it all over again with a whole different personality. And so parenting is not an easy chore,
No.
and we had both of us in the house. I can't imagine being a single mom, especially dealing with boys.
Yeah.
How hard that can be, but I just would say you can do this.
Yeah, it's
You
one of
can do
those,
this.
it takes a village to raise a
Yeah,
family, and
yeah.
your church is your village, and
Yeah.
you need to lean on the resources that you have, and also there's so much grace.
I think we need to maybe here at LWF do some classes and
Yeah.
some aids to help our young families
Yeah.
and parents while their kids are small, so they can build in the right stuff, so that by the time they get to teenagers, they're not coming and bringing them into my office by the ear and saying, "Fix this kid."
Yep.
You know, one of
Been
those.
there. Had that happen a few
Anyway.
times.
Well, Shelley, thanks so much. I really have enjoyed our conversation, and yet, as much as you can enjoy, I've enjoyed that part of it. This is overwhelming of the things that are going on, but I think it's good just to develop this conversation a little bit to get people out there aware, and then educating themselves to this important
Yeah,
issue.
absolutely. And I feel like we scratched the surface,
Oh yeah.
and there's more, but it's great to at least get the conversation going. So I appreciate the time to be able
Keeping
to
it real.
get the conversation going.
That's what we do.